The morning sun crawled slowly over the rusty rooftops of Makoko, a crowded neighborhood that many Lagosians avoided. But to Amara, it was the only world she knew. Her family's small two-room wooden house leaned dangerously to one side, built on uneven planks that creaked with every step. The walls were patched with cardboard, and when the rain came, drops of water trickled through the holes like tears. Yet inside that humble home, there was something that poverty could not wash away: love, faith, and resilience. Eliana, Amara's mother, rose from dawn every day. She tied a faded wrapper tightly around her waist, humming a quiet hymn as she prepared akara and pap to sell by the roadside. Her hands were rough from years of hard labor, but her heart remained tender. Eliana carried the weight of her family's survival like a crown, never complaining in front of her children. David, Amara's father, was equally relentless. He worked as a carpenter, often taking small jobs that barely put food on the table. Though his body was lean and weary, his spirit burned with hope. He was a man who knelt to pray before picking up his hammer, whispering promises to God that one day his children will rise beyond these struggles. Together, Elema and David had 5 children. Each one was precious. Each one carried a dream. But it was Amara, the second child, who stood out like a flame in the dark. Her siblings, little Ifeanyi, who loved drawing in the sand with a stick; Chidima, who dreamed of becoming a nurse; and the twins, Ebuka and Ebube, who were barely 6, were obedient, playful, and full of life. They attended the local public school, where overcrowded classrooms and underpaid teachers were the norm. Books were scarce, and chalkboards were cracked, yet the 2 them went every day with their heads held high. Amara, however, was different. At just 12 years old, her mind raced far beyond the lessons of her peers. She absorbed knowledge like dry soil drinking rain, questioning everything, challenging ideas, and finding patterns where others saw nothing. While her siblings memorized multiplication tables, Amara was busy solving complex word problems. While others copied notes line by line, she was already thinking of better ways to explain them. Eliana often said, "Amara is a gift that poverty cannot hide," and David would nod, adding, "But gifts need polishing, we must pray harder." Still, life was far from easy. Meals were sometimes only garri soaked in water. School uniforms were patched repeatedly until the stitches looked like artwork. Nights were often spent in darkness when they could not afford kerosene for the lantern. And yet, around the dinner mat, laughter and prayer were never absent. One evening, after another exhausting day, Eliana gathered her children. She said softly, "Listen, my darlings, we may not have wealth, but we have each other. And as long as there is breath in our bodies, there is hope." David put a firm hand on Amara's shoulder. "Your mother is right. Never let where you are stop you from where you are going. God sees us. One day, your story will change." Amara listened intently, her heart swelling with both sorrow and determination. She vowed suddenly that their sacrifices would not be in vain. Though Amara was gifted, her brilliance often clashed with the limits of her world. In school, her teachers noticed her sharp mind, but they had too many children to manage. In a class of nearly 80 pupils, her raised hand was often ignored. Her exercise books filled quickly with neat handwriting, but the pages were rarely marked. Still, Amara kept learning on her own, devouring anything she could read. Old newspapers, torn textbooks given away by neighbors, even wrappers from used bread that carried random words. When she walked home after school, she would pause at the gates of Queen's Academy, the elite private school not far from Makoko. Its tall white walls and shining glass windows made it look like a palace compared to a dusty classroom. From outside, she could sometimes hear teachers explaining science experiments or students reciting poems in clear and confident voices. Amara would press closer to the gate, hungry to catch every word. But not everyone welcomed her curiosity. More than once, security guards shooed her away. "Go back to your kind little girl," one of them once sneered. Amara ran, but inside, her fire only grew stronger. She whispered to herself, "One day, I will not stand outside the gate. I will walk through it."
Back at home, her mother noticed her late returns. "Amara," Eliana said gently one evening, "why do you delay after school?" Amara lowered her eyes. "Mama, I want to learn more. I listened to teachers at Queen's Academy." Eliana sighed, torn between pride and worry. She hugged her daughter close. "You have a hunger that cannot be quenched easily, but remember, knowledge is a gift from God. Pray and He will make a way." Amara nodded. Her mother's words planted hope in her heart, but the reality was still heavy. They barely had money for her school fees, and sometimes she missed classes until Eliana could beg the head teacher for mercy. She wore the same shoes year after year, the soles patched with cardboard. Her classmates teased her, calling her teacher's pet because of how quickly she answered questions. Yet secretly they admired her. David, her father, was her quiet supporter. Whenever he returned from his carpentry jobs, he would find Amara bent over a candle, scribbling notes into her worn notebook. "My daughter," he would say softly, "your light will shine in dark places. Do not stop." Her siblings too were inspired by her. Little Ifeanyi once told her, "Amara, when I grow up, I want to be smart like you." She smiled and ruffled his hair. "You'll be even smarter. Just keep learning." But deep inside, Amara wrestled with the question, what if my gift dies here, hidden in poverty? She wanted more than anything to prove that her family's prayers were not in vain, that even a girl from the slums could rise and bring honor to her name. It was this silent struggle, this desperate hunger that would one day lead her to an encounter she never expected, one that would change not just her own life, but her family's future forever. Selena, Lawson, lived in a world where marble floors shone like glass and meals appeared on silver trays without her ever asking. Her father, Mr. Lawson, was one of the most powerful billionaires in the city. He owned companies that stretched across nations, and his name opened doors that others could only dream of. From the outside, Selena had everything a child could wish for: chauffeured cars, designer clothes, the best private school in the country, and a mansion so vast that she sometimes got lost in its halls. Wherever she went, her driver and maid followed her, attending to her needs like shadows. But beneath the glitter of wealth, Selena carried a heavy burden. She wanted to be like her father, confident, brilliant, and respected. But in school, she struggled. Numbers confused her, reading took her too long, and even with private tutors at home, lessons slipped away like water through her fingers. Her father, always traveling for meetings and conferences, never noticed how much she fought to keep up. He loved her dearly, but he measured love by providing the best of everything money could buy. Extra lessons, foreign tutors, expensive books. He thought these were enough to mold her into the success he envisioned. "Selena, remember," he would say over hurried breakfast before boarding his jet, "you must shine. Lawson children never fail." His words pressed into her heart like a weight she could not lift. At school, Selena smiled, but inside she felt like a fraud. Her classmates whispered that she was only at Queen's Academy because of her father's money. Some even laughed when she stumbled over answers in class. Each mistake became a scar. Her maid, Clara, noticed her frustration one evening after another long tutoring session. Selena threw her books aside and sighed deeply. "I will never be like Papa." She touched her shoulder gently. "Child, don't give up. Sometimes help comes from where you least expect it." It was Clara and the family driver, Mr. Bode, who began taking Selena to the city library in secret. They told Mr. Lawson it was for quiet study time, knowing he would never approve of his daughter mingling in a public place.
Every Saturday, when Mrs. Lawson wasn't around, Selena's driver and maid brought her here. They knew she was restless at home. Tutors came and went, yet she barely caught up with the lessons. Numbers twisted in her head, words scattered before she could gather them. Still, Selena longed to be as sharp and respected as her father, a man who could command attention in boardrooms and give speeches that made people clap with admiration. Her father believed money could solve everything. If Selena didn't understand, he would hire another private tutor. If she struggled in math, another lesson was arranged. If she failed to keep up, he scolded her gently but firmly, saying, "Selena, you must try harder. You are a Lawson. Excellence runs in your blood." But no matter how hard she tried, the excellence seemed far away. One warm afternoon, as the driver parked outside the library, Selena sat with her arms folded. "I don't see why I need to come here. Books everywhere, no air conditioner. Just boring." Her maid smiled gently. "Books can be friends too, Selena. Maybe today you will meet a good one."
Selena rolled her eyes, but allowed herself to be led inside. The driver followed at a distance, watching like a bodyguard. Inside, the library was hushed, but not empty. Children from nearby schools sat around wooden tables. Some flipped through textbooks, others scribbled notes with focused eyes. That was when Selena's gaze landed on a slim girl by the corner, Amara. She sat with a pile of borrowed books, her fingers moving quickly across a small notebook. Her eyes lit up each time she understood something. She whispered the words as she read, almost as if she was speaking to the book itself. Selena tilted her head, curious at first, then frowned. Why is she smiling at books? Weird. Clara noticed and said softly, "That's Amara. She comes here often. Very bright girl." Selena scoffed. Bright? She looks poor. Her dress isn't even ironed properly. The driver chuckled. "Don't judge too quickly, Miss Selena. Sometimes the brightest stars don't wear gold." Selena turned away, pretending not to care, but her eyes kept darting back at Amara. She noticed how the girl moved from subject to subject, solving sums with a focus Selena wished she had. After a while, Clara leaned closer. "Why don't you sit with her? You might learn something." Selena wrinkled her nose. "Sit with her? No way. Do you know who I am? My father owns half of the companies in this city. She would only slow me down." But Clara didn't give up. Knowledge doesn't care about wealth, and learning from someone patient might help more than all those expensive tutors. The driver added, "You've tried many teachers, Miss Selena. Maybe it's time to try a friend." Selena froze. A friend? The word felt unusual. Most children in her school kept their distance, either envying her father's money or expecting her to act proud. She had classmates, but not real friends. The next Saturday, fate pulled them closer. Selena wandered near Amara's table, pretending to look for a book. She accidentally dropped her pencil. It rolled right to Amara's feet.
Amara picked it up and offered it with a shy smile. "Here, you dropped this." Selena hesitated before taking it. Thanks." Their eyes met briefly. Something in Amara's gaze was different. It wasn't fear, envy, or fake admiration. It was simple kindness. Clara nudged Selena from behind. "Say something." So Selena, clearing her throat, asked stiffly, "Do you come here a lot?" "Yes," Amara replied, her voice soft but confident. "Almost every day after chores. The books help me understand things faster." Selena's curiosity slipped out before she could hide it. "Even maths?" Amara nodded. "Maths too." "Do you like maths?" "Like? No, it hates me." Amara giggled, covering her mouth quickly. "Maybe I can show you an easier way, if you want." Selena hesitated. Her pride wrestled with her desire to learn. She remembered her father's words, his high expectations, his disappointment whenever she failed. Maybe, just maybe, this girl could help. "Fine," she whispered, "just for a little while." That little while stretched into hours. Amara explained patiently, using examples from daily life, market prices, shared meals, simple patterns. Selena's eyes widened as problems that once seemed impossible slowly became clear. "Wait, so if I divide it like that, the answer is..." Selena gasped, scribbling quickly. "It works. It actually works." Amara clapped lightly. "See? You're smarter than you think." For the first time in months, Selena felt genuine joy while studying. She almost forgot she was supposed to act proud. She laughed, she asked questions, she even begged for more examples. When the driver came to say it was time to leave, Selena pouting, "Already? But we just started." Amara smiled. "You can always come back. I'll be here." Week after week, the library became their meeting place.
Selena transformed little by little. She no longer dreaded books. She even woke up early on Saturdays, eager to go. Clara watched with a smile, whispering to the driver, "She's changing. Look at her eyes. They shine again." The driver nodded. Amara is good for her. But Mr. Lawson, he won't understand. And truly, that shadow hung over Selena's joy. Each time she laughed with Amara, each time she learned something new, a small voice whispered in her head, "What if father finds out?" Because her father, proud and strict, had never once mentioned the word friend. To him, life was about achievement, status, and keeping company with equals. He would never approve of his daughter learning from a poor girl at the library. Selena pushed the thought away, each time, telling herself she could hide it. But deep down, she knew secrets never stayed buried forever. Mr. Lawson had always believed he had everything under control. His wealth, his companies, his reputation, everything was carefully built and managed. But nothing prepared him for the revelation that was about to shake his world. One late evening, after returning from a trip abroad, Mr. Lawson entered his mansion. The air was quiet, except for the faint sound of laughter and voices drifting from the study. Curious, he walked towards the sound. What he found stopped him dead in his tracks.
There, at his polished oak table, sat his daughter Selena, her eyes bright, her hand moving quickly across the pages of a notebook. And beside her, not a hired tutor, not a seasoned scholar, but a girl dressed in modest second-hand clothes. "Selena, who is this?" Mr. Lawson's deep voice filled the room. The driver and maid froze at the door. Selena looked up startled, then stood nervously. "Father, this is Amara. She's been helping me study." Mr. Lawson's brows furrowed. "Helping you study? Without my permission? Do you realize who you are, Selena? You don't just bring strangers into this house." Selena's voice trembled, but her determination glowed. "She's not just a stranger, Father. She understands me. She explains things in a way I can finally learn. All the extra lessons you arranged, none of them worked, but Amara does." There was silence. Mr. Lawson turned to Amara, who lowered her gaze respectfully. She had rehearsed this moment in her head many times, but reality was far heavier. "Sir, I never meant to offend. Selena just needed someone who could reach her differently. I only wanted to help." Mr. Lawson's sharp eyes scanned her from top to toe. Her worn shoes, the patched hem of her dress, the quiet humility in her voice. Something about her unsettled him. "Driver, see this girl out, now." Selena's heart sank. "No, Father, please. You don't understand." She grabbed his hand, her voice breaking. "She's the reason I can finally solve problems. The reason I feel proud of myself. Don't take that away." The maid, usually quiet, stepped forward. "Sir, forgive me, but what your daughter says is true. I've watched her. Amara has a gift." For a moment, Mr. Lawson felt outnumbered in his own home. He dismissed everyone with a wave of his hand and stood alone in thought. That night, Mr. Lawson could not sleep. He kept replaying Selena's words. "She's the reason I can finally learn." How could a poor girl succeed where expensive tutors had failed? What made her different? His mind searched for answers, but none came. And though he wouldn't admit it, his heart was moved by the courage his daughter showed in defending Amara. By dawn, he made a decision. Mr. Lawson ordered his staff to discreetly look into Amara's background. What they uncovered surprised him. Amara lived with her parents and 4 siblings in a cramped one-room apartment. Her father, David, worked long hours as a carpenter. Her mother, Eliana, sold vegetables at the market. Despite their poverty, the children were known for their discipline and intelligence. Teachers at the local public school spoke highly of Amara.
She has a rare gift, one teacher said, not just for learning, but for teaching others. She lifts those around her. Mr. Lawson listened quietly as the reports came in. A strange feeling stirred inside him, admiration mixed with guilt. He had judged her by her clothes, but her character shone brighter than gold. The next day, Mr. Lawson asked Selena to invite Amara and her parents to the mansion. Selena's eyes widened in surprise, but quickly lit up with hope.
When Amara arrived with her parents, they were nervous. The marble floors, the chandeliers, the rows of servants, everything screamed of a world it did not belong to. "Please, sit," Mr. Lawson said. His tone was formal, but softer than before. He looked directly at David and Eliana. "I owe you honesty. At first, I was displeased with your daughter's presence in my home. But after seeing the effect she has on Selena, I cannot deny she carries something rare." Emmanuel spoke carefully. "Sir, we never asked for this. Amara only wished to share what she knew. We are proud of her, even if we cannot give her the world." Eliana's eyes glistened. "We only pray our children rise above our struggles. If Amara has been of help, then perhaps this is God's answer." For the first time in years, Mr. Lawson felt his hardened heart crack. He cleared his throat and said slowly, "I want to do something for your family." Mr. Lawson created the Lawson Scholarship Fund, starting with Amara and her siblings. Tuition, books, uniforms, all paid in full. But he didn't stop there. He gave David a contract to provide carpentry services for his company's projects, lifting the family's income. He gave Eliana a small shop in the city market, freeing her from daily struggle. And then came the biggest change. He arranged for the family to move into a new home, far from the neighborhood that once resented them, a modest but comfortable house surrounded by safety and dignity. When Amara's family first stepped into their new home, tears flowed freely. The children ran from room to room, laughing in disbelief. Eliana knelt on the floor, whispering prayers of gratitude. David clasped Mr. Lawson's hand tightly. He said, "You have not only lifted my daughter, you have lifted us all." But change never comes without whispers. The old neighborhood gossiped about the sudden blessing. Some envied, some accused. Yet Amara's family learned to walk with grace, ignoring bitterness. For Selena, life transformed too. With Amara's help, she gained confidence. For the first time, she no longer felt like a shadow in her father's world. She began excelling in her studies, her eyes shining with pride whenever she showed her father her progress. Mr. Lawson watched in awe. One girl from a poor background had not only saved her daughter's education, but had also softened his own hardened heart.